All right, you bunch of yahoos, strap yourselves in for another episode of Dan and Don's Toxic Masculinity.
In other words, shut up, sit up, and pay attention.
All right, who's this? Who's this halfway decent looking guy over here?
Go there, Kevin. Do it quick.
That's Mr. Steve Sarich from Thailand.
I need to move over. Well, you pointed me this way, now you're pointing this way. I got to sit next to Dan? Fuck.
He's in medical cannabis in Thailand.
Hi, Dennis?
Steven.
Hi, Steven. How you doing, bird?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Early
Early morning.
Yeah.
Still dark outside here.
I'm having one of those days that would kill a mere mortal, but for me, it just makes me late.
Steve, give him the elevator version of your background.
Wow, tough one. I have been growing cannabis and making medicine for 55 years.
Damn.
Which is not so unusual in itself, other than I did it for 55 years without ever being arrested once. And it wasn't
that's rookie there by not being arrested. Yes.
Well, that's why I left. I was pushing my luck, I figured, after 55 years.
Yeah.
But it wasn't for lack of trying, however. I mean, I was raided by more drug task forces than anyone in the history of Washington State.
They couldn't prove it, or what?
No, you know what? First of all, what I did when I decided to become an activist, because I was growing long before I became an activist, I knew I was putting my life in jeopardy, because if you're an activist and you're a grower and it's illegal, they're coming after your ass. Right? There's no question about that. So I learned the law. I mean, I was a law major in college, but I learned the law. And they never, their warrants are almost never good, because a judge will sign anything. Right? But then when it comes down to prosecuting you, then they don't have any real evidence, because you get the warrant thrown out. So in 2010, I was shot in my home by 5 home intruders. I was shot in the face and the arm with a 12 gauge, won that gunfight. They were figured I had marijuana, and they were coming to get it, and they shot first, which was a real mistake.
Yeah.
I'm the former vice president of Colt Firearms. So I know how to shoot.
Yeah.
So I won that gun battle with a .22 pistol. And 5.5 hours into the investigation, and because of who I was, they had 2 SWAT teams, both King County SWAT teams there. They had 40 cops on my property, searching everything. I had a few medical marijuana plants because I'm legally allowed to. 5.5 hours into it, the head investigator comes up and says, "Look, you've been really honest with us. Everything you've told us about how that shooting went down happened just that way, according to forensics experts. But see those guys sitting out there in the driveway with the long hair sitting in the car? They're out and getting a warrant to search your house." And I said, "You guys have been searching my house for 5.5 hours."
Yeah.
He goes, I know. And he ended up getting in a fight with him, but he came and told me, he said, "Look, they're going to make you get out of here. They will get a warrant someplace." And they did get the warrant. And he said, "So you do this for me, because you were honest with me. You can pack up anything you feel you want to take with you when you leave the house, put it in a suitcase or 2 suitcases, and I will escort you off the property." And he did do that. And then he ended up getting in a fist fight with those guys.
Yeah.
So it was interesting.
Wow, fucking an honest, good one, huh?
Oh God. So anyway, I decided.
Jeez, Kevin, have you ever heard of an honest cop?
No. You can't have, the drug task forces can't have honest cops. If you have one cop that won't take the money, okay, you've got to get rid of him. Right? Because he's a danger to you.
Yeah.
I know all about that.
I saw Training Day. That was pretty spot on.
Yeah.
Well, fortunately, they legalized medical marijuana over here. When I say legalized, I mean kind of like they legalized it in the U.S. And one thing people don't understand, because I haven't been doing this for 55 years, nobody legalized marijuana in the U.S. We don't have a legalization model in the U.S. It's a Schedule I narcotic, okay, still. And so all you have, all that changed really, it was George Soros that changed the definition. You cannot, and you guys will understand this, you cannot legalize anything without removing all the laws that made it illegal in the first place, right?
Right.
All right. In Washington State, they've had legal marijuana since 2012. You can't grow a plant in your front yard, so tell me it's legal. You can get pulled over with THC in your bloodstream, and there's no proof that it causes impairment, and you have no legal defense in the state of Washington. You're going to jail for DUI, a drug DUI, which means if you're in college or you're losing your scholarship, and tell me where that's legalization, right? So we have legalized medical and hemp here, but it's kind of an opportunity for the powers that be to take bribe money and to get licenses and stuff. So I'm just making medicine. We have the only legitimate medical cannabis medication in Asia, and I can't sell it here, but the government of Indonesia is using it. It's a salve, it's a balm.
Yeah.
And they are using it to treat post-vaccination eczema, psoriasis, and shingles, because that's a huge problem that you're not.
What about burn victims?
Yeah, this stuff will work all the way up to skin cancer. And that was the reason I first did it. The next products that we're doing though, suppositories. We bought the mold.
Here you go, Don.
Nah, I'll pass on that one.
The optimal delivery system.
But if I'm for instance, I'm treating two people, one with uterine cancer and one with prostate cancer, and so they will take capsules, okay, of high THC cannabis, and they're using suppositories. The suppositories get 70% more absorption if you put them in the area that you're going to be treating. So I'm making cannabis suppositories. I want to see if they're going to throw me in jail for that. You can't very well. You can't smoke them.
Yeah, but what about burn victims? How can the salve?
Yeah. Anything to do with the skin.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want some, let me know. And I'll shoot me an address. I'll send you some.
Yeah. How long does it take to work on that? Something like on the burn or something?
You know what? It all depends on the person. Okay. And it depends on what they're trying to cure. We've had 100% success with using it on certain kinds of things, but cannabis, acts different. A lot of the problems are endocannabinoid deficiencies that are causing whatever it is. Burn, obviously not. This vaccine, obviously not. It's the spike protein that's causing this. So the best thing I can suggest is to just try it.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is we're trying to, and I'm working with the president of Indonesia and a doctor who is his medical advisor. So they're going to be testing all these products for me in Indonesia, even though here I am in Thailand. Hopefully Thailand will come around to it, but we're going to be doing all kinds of things with hemp, making great hemp food, hemp ice cream, hemp milk.
But will all this growing actually be taking place in Thailand, or will it be taking place in Indonesia?
Okay, well, here's the thing about cannabis. The big problem right now, since we still have a prohibition model, okay? In other words, even if you want to grow CBD hemp, you have to have a license with the state. It's not like, you don't need to have that for growing weed. Right. That's what I mean when I say it's not legal. So you can't go out and buy hemp seed and grow hemp, okay? The way it stands right now. We want people to be able to do that. One of the things we're doing to do that, to kind of defeat the fact that you can't have seed and grow it, we're doing a study right now with Dr. William Courtney, who pioneered juicing in cannabis. And he found that hemp sprouts between day 10 and day 14 of their little lives produce bioactives, medical and nutritional value that nothing else on earth has. So what we're trying to do is get the Thai government and the Indonesian government to find that it is an essential food item, because you need to grow the sprouts yourself, because you don't know, otherwise you don't know when day 10 and day 14, okay? And Asia is a hemp eating place, a sprout eating kind of location.
Right.
So it'll go over very well here.
No.
There's a lot of stuff that isn't being done because you don't have great genetics to do it. You have crops cross-pollinating in the U.S. You've got the big pharma is interrupting the hemp business there badly.
Right.
Okay. Hemp and cannabis need to be grown as a field crop. They need to be grown like wheat or corn or anything else. Okay. And because for the 80 years that you've had prohibition, the normal way that you would develop seeds like that to do it like a single DNA seed. If you drive through a wheat field, you know how it looks like it's cut off on top with a razor blade. Every plant is exactly the same height. It's because every one of those plants is identical in DNA. And no one has ever done that with cannabis. Okay, so we're going to be doing that here. That way, if you're growing a high THC flower crop for recreational, or whether you're growing a CBD crop, you'll be able to plant it with a seed drill like you would wheat, and you'll be able to mow it down with a combine like you would wheat, okay? Which means you can grow 10, 20 times as much per acre, and it's all exactly the same plant.
Did George Washington and Thomas Jefferson grow hemp?
Oh yeah, and there was no, they didn't, and it wasn't. Everybody thinks, oh, yeah, but it wasn't marijuana.
Yeah.
Look, do you guys know the difference between marijuana and hemp? You got a definition?
Nope.
Most people don't, including the people getting into the hemp business, oddly enough. Most people think it's two separate plants. Did you think it was two separate plants?
No, I think it's the same thing. Yeah.
It's exactly the same plant because hemp and high THC cannabis are only different according to the amount of THC by dry weight, okay, in a finished product. Okay, so if you and I plant the same hemp seeds and you and I live next to each other, our farms are right next to each other and the soil's the same, everything else is equal, but I plant mine 2 weeks before you plant yours, it's very, very possible, extremely possible, because I planted if we harvest at the same time, my crop is 2 weeks older and my crop can go hot. 0.3% is the limit. So you and I grew exactly the same plant, crop looked the same, all of it, but mine is illegal marijuana because mine went over 0.3% because I planted it 3 weeks earlier. That's bullshit. That's bullshit.
You got some stone bumblebees and hummingbirds, huh?
Yeah. So that's the only difference between hemp and marijuana. And they only do that. That was Big Pharma, who doesn't want us doing, medical cannabis. They haven't wanted it since 1937 when they banned it.
Yeah, but I always looked at hemp as it was a great plant for so many different textiles. I mean, all the fact that you could hemp was so versatile that could be used. I mean, Don just said rope was one, but I mean, I know you can make clothing out of it. You could. I actually saw it was on Jay Leno. They actually had a car on there where the car body was made out of hemp.
You can make body armor out of it.
Right. You
can use it for what we're going to use it for here. A lot of it, and you need to be doing there, is bioremediation. People have been dumping garbage into the soil there and here for decades. Monsanto's been dumping Roundup and all the other crap you've been putting in and not replenishing the nutrients in the soil. So bioremediation is probably the best thing you can do with hemp because it will soak all of that stuff out of the soil. It will remove it. And hemp will, if you get the right varieties of hemp, it will soak up arsenic from mining sites. A friend of ours at Hemp for Water, Steve Edmonds, he's floating mats on Lake Okeechobee with hemp plants growing on them, and it's sucking water out of the lake. It's sucking garbage that's in the lake out.
Yeah, it's a scavenger plant, right? Didn't they use that in Chernobyl?
The filter.
Yeah.
They used it. They grow hemp in Chernobyl to take the nuclear stuff out of the.
Yeah.
Seriously, you don't want to use that hemp.
Yeah, but like Steve was saying though,
What do you think my cigar's made out of, boy?
Steve was trying to say that when you look at if you plant it in a garden type setting, stuff like that, any kind of fertilizer and stuff like that you had, whether it was from the year before that, whatever residue is still in that soil, the hemp plant can suck that right back up out of the root system. Whatever comes out to the rain system, that what's in that ground, and there's a lot of I'll say agricultural land, because it's always they use a hybrid corn seed or a hybrid bean seed, and then they have all this inoculator and this fertilizer, all the stuff that they put in to help make these the normal crops grow better. May not exactly be a good step for hemp, because once you plant this hemp right after doing all these others, it's still going to absorb whatever residue that's there left from these fertilizers, from the inoculations, and even from the chemicals that they spray on there just to kill weeds and stuff like that. Right. Because
but what you can do is you can still use them for biomass and making biochar, and you can actually make it's like a charcoal out of the stuff, or you can use it for making electricity. So you can use the crop that you actually grew, okay? And usually in 1 or 2 crops, here we probably do 2 if we were remediating soil, because we can get 3 crops a year here. We can suck all that stuff out. And the biggest crops here in Asia are rice. And of course, nobody is competitive because everybody is growing rice, okay? And the communist countries are cheaper at it. So they're going to have to grow other things, but in rice fields, very often there's salt water. So you can't plant anything else after you've grown rice in those fields. So this is a chance for Asia to rebuild all of their soil for agriculture. China's got the same problem. China's got a worse problem. They've been ruining the soil for decades and decades. That's why they have to buy grain and everything else from the U.S. and everybody else, because they've ruined their soil. So there's a lot of things you can do with hemp. There are huge markets compared to everybody likes the shiny stuff. Let's grow some marijuana. That sounds sexy, right? And they remember when marijuana in Northern California was $6,000 a pound. I remember when it was $6,000 a pound. Now it's $450 for the best marijuana you want to buy there, right? So that changes the whole economics of it. What's going to happen with all marijuana is sooner or later, when we've got the right genetics, and we have those genetics now, you'll be able to plant it as a field crop, which means no handwork, no planting on 6-foot centers. It means you're going to treat it just like wheat, and then you can process it the same way. And it's going to bring the cost of marijuana, whether it's recreational marijuana, medical cannabis products, everything way, way down to where it should be, because it's been an artificially inflated market for 80 years. Okay, it was only $6,000 a pound because it was illegal to grow, and you were taking a risk.
Yeah, it's a weed.
Yeah. It's a weed. So that's what's going to change. That's the big change over the next 2-3 years in both cannabis and hemp, is Asia now adopting, and all of the countries in Asia will be adopting medical cannabis. We're dealing with the Indonesians right now, but we're also talking with people in Malaysia, Vietnam, and several other countries in the area. There isn't a country in the area we haven't talked to about doing this. But what you want to look at with a hemp crop is not as an export product. You figure out what you can do with that product in your country. There is a product that you've never heard of called hemp adobe, and the owner of it, the guy who invented it, was a friend of mine, and he just died of cancer. But he beat cancer back for 6 years. Okay, but it's called hemp adobe, and it is unlike hempcrete. Have you heard of hempcrete?
Nope.
That they make. Okay, hemp adobe, the hardest cement in the world, is 10,000 psi, and it's what they used in the New World Trade Center. This stuff can go up to over 100,000 psi. You cannot burn it, and the one really interesting fact is nuclear energy will not penetrate it. It's that dense.
Really?
If you want to build yourself a bulletproof house or a grenade-proof house, this is the stuff you'd use, and it will last longer than the pyramid, and you can make it out of hemp.
And it's called hemp adobe.
Hemp adobe. Yep. And I haven't talked to his wife since she died. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to reach her, but I'm going to find out where she's at with that, because I want to see him adopt it here.
Do you make it the same way you make regular adobe, like mud?
No.
Straw?
And it's no, it's not. And one of the major differences is magnesium oxide cement, and some other chemicals. I mean, there's a chemical reaction that goes on in this situation where it actually gets hot, and then this stuff is you can't beat it. You know, it's just the hardest substance you know. But if you wanted to, you could grind it up and recycle it.
And what's the cost? What's the cost for that? You know,
I don't know because nobody is doing it on any kind of a scale right now.
Right.
I'll report back to you on it because I think his wife now is in control of it, and so hopefully she's licensing some people to actually make it. Kevin got screwed by so many investors that he was just scared to even license the thing. Unfortunately, the hemp and cannabis business is full of scammers.
Exactly.
Well, I mean,
Right?
I think it's great what you're doing there over in Indonesia. In fact, you live in Thailand, but at least you got the Indonesian market that actually is working with you on a lot of cool things. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you think that any of this type of collaboration or projects will ever see stateside?
Well, okay. We are not. I know this is going to sound funny. We are not interested in the American market, and here's why. The American market is what 330 million people. My market here, within a 4-hour plane ride, is 4 billion people.
Wow.
4 billion people. Indonesia alone is almost the size of the U.S. Okay. Vietnam is huge. And these are all agricultural countries, and they all have a history of plant-based medicine.
Right.
And that's what makes adopting plant-based medicines like cannabis here a real live possibility. We would like to do plant-based medicines that we can do so cheaply that we can almost afford to give them away. Okay. And if you grow it like a field crop, you can do that. And I came up with a scheme. I'll run it past you guys and see if you like it. There are 3 billion people, according to the World Health Organization, that have no access to any kind of medication whatsoever. 3 billion out of 7.6. And they attribute this to the fact that the pharmaceutical industry has got patents on everything, so no one can afford to give away medicine. Okay? So there are a lot of NGOs. In Cambodia, right next door to here, has the most non-governmental organizations, and they support the government and they give things out to the people. 2,000 NGOs. I came up with an idea. These people, and a lot of them are scammers. They live off contributions. They take in $100 million and they maybe hand out $1 million of it, right? Not all of them, but some of them. But you can't stay alive if you're in that industry unless you come up with something new that you're doing for those people all the time, because you're losing supporters all the time. So you got to bring new people in all the time. And I'm going to make plant-based medicines, not just from cannabis, but all kinds of things. I'm going to make them so cheap that I can provide them to your non-governmental agency, and you can distribute it in Cambodia. Now you can take in more money, and I can afford to sell it to you so cheaply because I don't have any cost of sales. I don't have any salespeople. I don't have a distributor. You're going to distribute it. You're going to do the publicity. You're going to do all of that. And I think we can supply medicine to 3 billion people, which is not going to make the pharmaceutical industry happy with me, gentlemen.
Well, I was going to say that you might all Americans would love to have this opportunity to get a medication that actually will help them.
Work.
Your biggest problem will be will your various lobbyists / major pharmaceutical companies, will they try to block you in any and every way possible?
You better build that nuclear-proof house and that suit, bulletproof suit.
I've already picked out the polycarbonate windows that will repel rocket fire grenades. They will have to hit me from above with some kind of major, like Moab kind of weapon to blow this house up.
No, because I fully support what you're doing there, Steve. It just the fact that you could actually plant, this hemp product now as as like a farm seed, and again,
Yeah,
you're using
yeah.
combines and things of that nature to where now you can produce this on such a mass level. Again, we're just talking about just little aspects of it can help here, it can help there, but when you look at just the overall different things it could do health wise alone, and
Yeah, just
and
health-wise,
I,
just
I,
health-wise,
I was sharing with a couple of the other gentlemen that involved here, both Brandon and Tony, that some of the stuff that you have done, even as using your body as a self-experimentation, when you talk about the suppository, even though Don over here was frowning quite a bit about the suppository, it is still one of the
You're
best.
a fan of it, aren't you?
Well, it's when you think about the thermometer. Was it sticking it underneath your tongue or sticking it in your ass that you got a true body core temperature? Again, I say no more because I know where it was supposed to go. But even if you want the best for medication to hit your system, is it going down your mouth? Is it going down the northern hemisphere or up the southern hemisphere? Up the southern hemisphere because
Well,
it's going to make a better.
I share a secret with you. Because I don't have availability of a lab here, but I've been developing medicines for a long time with cannabis. I test all of this stuff for potency on myself.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for watching another episode of Dan and Don's Toxic Masculinity. You better like, subscribe, and share, or I'm going to come to your house.